All right, ladies and gentlemen, so Dana White has recently announced that Paulo Costa will be taking on Sean Strickland at UFC 302 in a special 5-round co-main event. First, I just want to say that I'm actually surprised the UFC put this fight together, right? And I will say Paulo Costa did look much better than what we've seen over his past few fights in his last outing against Robert Whittaker. I know he didn't get the W, but that was the leanest and that was the fastest that you could probably argue that we've seen in Paulo Costa's career. Now, this is a big deal for Costa, man. Coming off a loss to Robert Whittaker, who I know is just world class and has always been that guy at the top of 185 pounds, that it seems like if you can get through him, you're getting places and maybe you're on the brink of a title shot. And not many have been able to do that. We saw what Dricus du Plessis was able to do, but nonetheless, Costa gets a big opportunity coming off a loss to take on arguably the biggest name at 185 pounds right now, that is one Sean Strickland. Now, first initial thoughts of this matchup, guys, and when I look at this stylistic fight, I really like Paulo Costa, and I also like watching Sean Strickland. I think this is a disaster for Paulo Costa. And I know that people are going to say, well, Costa's this big, strong guy. He hits hard. He's got hellacious kicks, which I agree. Paulo Costa has some of the best power in his kicks in terms of the entire weight class at 185. But my question to you here, and feel free to comment below on your thoughts on this, what is it that Paulo Costa brings to the table that is going to trouble Sean Strickland? What is it that he's going to do? I mean, we're talking about a guy in Sean Strickland who, take the loudmouth, and the character that is Sean Strickland aside, take the secret juice and all the fun stuff. Both of these guys are absolute characters, by the way. The press conference is going to be amazing, and I'm excited for the build-up because it's already been funny on Twitter and on X and the different things. They've been going back and forth with some funny things. But when we look at the X's and O's, the fighters, this is a bad matchup for Paulo, man. This is a bad matchup, and I understand he has crazy power in his kicks. Outside of him catching Sean Strickland with some sort of head kick, we saw him clip Robert Whittaker with that nasty spinning wheel kick. I just don't see how Costa wins this fight. And Sean Strickland had came out and said, listen, I met with the UFC. I told them, my long-term goals. They obviously are in agreement with me, and they're going to help me accommodate to that financially. So he definitely has been taken care of financially, and so has Paulo Costa in the past. Both guys seem incredibly happy with their contracts with the UFC. From the X's and O's standpoint, I just don't see how Costa wins the fight. Outside of I don't want to say a Hail Mary, but some sort of wild spinning wheel kick, some sort of head kick, because Paulo Costa's head kicks, man, incredibly underrated. That man can snap up a lead leg head kick like I have not really seen inside the UFC, and Whittaker was very, very close to getting caught with that on a number of occasions. The jab looked very fast to Paulo Costa. But a few issues I see in terms of Paulo Costa, and we're going to talk about why I think this is really a disaster, is Paulo Costa is incredibly durable, and he's looked at as this ferocious power puncher, which just isn't really the case, guys. As much as I like Costa, as fun as I think he is, inside the octagon, he loves to push forward, which he's been a lot better with in terms of not having to push forward the whole time. He's gotten a lot better at just kind of fighting a little bit at range, taking some backward steps, moving a little bit laterally. His footwork has gotten better. But Costa's one of those guys that, when you look at him, you're like, this guy, if he hits me, it's probably going to put my lights out. And it's just not the case. He's more of a volume puncher that does have good pop on his shots. And I do like how Costa works and goes to the body, which is one thing I really respect about him. A lot of fighters tend to headhunt, they beat up the legs, this and that, where Costa really targets everything. And he's one of the few guys that really loves to dig to the body. The problem is Sean Strickland has been in there, one, with the better competition on a more consistent basis, and he's been going up against the top of the heap. Not that, Paulo Costa did just fight Robert Whittaker, but I think Sean Strickland beats Robert Whittaker. Again, guys, styles make fights, and it's all about, the particular, this guy, a certain fighter can beat a certain somebody despite how good they are or how good they aren't. It just is all about styles, right? We saw Holloway go up to 185. I thought he was going to beat Gaethje. Why? Because of the style. It's not to say that Holloway can go out there and beat Poirier again and all these different things. Like, that's a different discussion. But the point is, Sean Strickland's style is just a disaster for somebody like Costa, because we've seen Sean Strickland in there melt a guy like Israel Adesanya, who's that pretty technical, crisp, clean, high-level striker. Strickland just walked through him. He absolutely walked through him, and we're going to talk about why he did that and some things that Strickland is going to do tactically that are going to pose a number of issues for Costa. But really, it's the fact that Strickland, we've seen him in there against similar guys to what you would refer to as similar to Costa, right? We've seen him in there with a big, strong guy like Dricus du Plessis. Can we agree that DDP is a much harder fight than Costa? I think he is, absolutely. Dricus du Plessis can switch stances. He's got true one-shot knockout power, and he's got good kicks. He switches stances. He has the takedown threat. He has all sorts of different things that, and he has maybe a little bit better of a gas tank than Paulo Costa, all around. We've only seen Costa, I think, in 2 5-round fights, one of those being, a 5-round title fight against Izzy where he didn't look very good. And then he goes out there against Marvin Vettori in a 5-round Apex main event where he missed weight, he just looked puffy, and there was all sorts of BS going on around that fight. But when I look at this is more about the fighter that Sean Strickland is and not so much taking anything away from Costa. It's just we've seen Strickland against Jared Cannonier as well. Can we agree that Jared Cannonier is a better fighter than Paulo Costa? I'm not saying Jared Cannonier is more entertaining. Like, Cannonier seems like a great guy. I feel like we all like Jared Cannonier. I don't know how you could dislike him. He just shows up, wants to fight, and be left alone. I respect it. Paulo Costa is an entertainer. He's exciting. He's fun. So I get that. But in terms of inside the octagon, Jared Cannonier is definitely a better fighter than Paulo Costa. He has better power. He has better kick. Well, I shouldn't say he has better kicks. He does have good kicks, and he's able to switch both stances. He has pretty good grappling. But one thing about Costa people tend to overlook, this man does have good grappling. He just decides not to use it. 1, because it'll make him more tired. And 2, he prefers to be exciting and entertaining and strike because he does have good striking. But when we get into some of the tactics that Sean Strickland has displayed that just give problems to a guy like Costa is Sean Strickland is maybe the best fighter in the entire UFC at defending against leg kicks. You could fight me on that, and the only other person that I could take maybe a nomination for in that department would be maybe Alex Pineda, well, really 2 people, Alex Pineda and Jan Blachowicz. Those 2 are outstanding at defending against leg kicks. But Sean Strickland is always looked at as this guy who has a dumb fighting style that doesn't make sense and all this and that. I'll link down a video below where I break down the fighting style of Sean Strickland. There is a lot more technique to the madness than what people are led to believe. He stands very upright in that stance with that Philly shell, and everyone focuses so much on the Philly shell, but they neglect to acknowledge this man's upright stance makes it incredibly difficult to attack his legs, and that is something that Paulo Costa loves to do. He loves to attack your legs, and he'll sit on the outside and do that because he does not have long arms. Paulo Costa, I think, has probably the shortest reach inside the middleweight division. You'll probably have to fact check that, just going off the top of my head. He's got T-Rex arms, as Izzy said. And he's going to have to lunge in and try to close the distance. So before he does that, to try to get a feel for things, he loves to try to work that lead leg. Where a guy like Strickland is so narrow in his stance and so upright, he just gets that leg 1 out of the way or checks it beautifully. And I just don't see the leg kicks being a problem in this matchup. So we eliminate that. Outside of the head kicks, which are fast and are dangerous, which Sean Strickland has been pretty good against head kicks. We saw what he was able to do to Israel Adesanya. What people are missing in that fight with Izzy, some people do recognize this, is the fact that Strickland was absolutely able to shut down the leg kick game of Izzy. And that's Izzy's best tool, was using that jab, sitting at range, and banging leg kicks from the outside all day. Sean Strickland shut that down with absolute confidence. He just marched forward. And I know that Paulo Costa is a little bit of a different puzzle than Adesanya. But Paulo Costa is very basic, which basic is not a bad thing, right? Basics win. Basics can be a good thing. But he just doesn't provide the skill set that is going to trouble a guy like Sean Strickland. And aside from checking kicks and all these different things, everybody wants to focus on the Philly shell, which I know it's fun, it's entertaining, and all those different things. Sean Strickland has one of the best jabs in all of MMA, not just the UFC, all of MMA. This man has a true boxer's jab. It's fast, it's stiff, and he throws it different ways. He'll throw it straight on with the knuckles turned over. He kind of throws it this way, and it just snaps out. And you saw, man, after that first round, he battered Dricus du Plessis with that jab, man. He absolutely battered him with that jab. And we have seen in every single fight that Sean Strickland has had, whether he is getting backed up, whether he's moving forward, no matter what is happening, that jab is money in every single fight. And Paulo Costa does not really move his head. He doesn't have particularly good head movement. I think his footwork is a little sloppy. to where he's not going to be able to create the angles that are necessary to try to capitalize on a guy like Sean Strickland. And the reason I said I would believe Sean Strickland asked for this to be 5 rounds, that heavily favors Sean Strickland because, yes, Costa did look good against Robert Whittaker, but Costa is known to fatigue as the fight plays out when it gets into some of those later rounds. Now, we did see him go 5 rounds with Marvin Vettori where he looked gassed towards the end of that first round, and it seemed like he caught a second win and was still able to go 5 rounds. And one thing about Costa, man, he's a fighter. He's a dog. He shows up no matter what you hit him with. He is durable, and he is incredibly hard to put away. But when I look at this fight, I know that he doesn't have the most aesthetically pleasing fighting style to where you're like, hey, I'm going to show everybody I'm a coach. I'm going to show everybody how to fight like this guy. Like Sean Strickland's not the tape that you're going to play, maybe other than to be like, here's how you should check a kick or get your leg out of the way or throw a jab. But in terms of the overall skill set, I just see Sean Strickland kind of being patient early on, and Strickland's gotten a lot better at fighting moving backwards. Now, one of the things that does concern me on the side of Sean Strickland, if you're in that corner, is his lack of output at times, right? He's very, very good defensively behind that Philly shell, but one of the problems with Strickland, he doesn't tend to let things go outside of throwing that jab, and that is what I've said has hurt Sean Strickland in these razor-close 5-round fights that he's been in, right? Against Jared Cannonier, against Dricus du Plessis, where you could argue and say Strickland won these fights. You have a heavy case that he won the fight against DDP. I picked DDP to win the fight, and I still thought Sean Strickland won. But when you look at that, the point is, Sean Strickland's lack of tools that he uses, I think, hurts him when it comes to the judges' scorecards, right? Whenever we've seen in kickboxing, we've seen in Muay Thai, if you watch any of those different forms of combat, those judges, when they see somebody landing nasty kicks, they see somebody landing elbows, they see somebody throwing knees and punches and all these different things, it looks to the judges like you're doing more, and that, I shouldn't say you're the better fighter, but it looks like you're being more active, when in reality, Sean Strickland could throw 100 jabs in the first round to somebody throwing 50 leg kicks, a couple elbows and punches, and they're just going to see it as, well, maybe Sean Strickland's kind of getting outscored here. And unfortunately, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think that that's what's been happening to Sean Strickland. But in this fight, I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue because what I predict is Paulo Costa is going to want to be entertaining. He's going to look to push the pace. He's going to look to back Sean Strickland up. But what we've seen Sean Strickland really weaponize in his recent outings is that good, stern little jabbing front kick up the middle that he uses with that lead leg. 1, to kind of keep you off of him, and 2, just try to take some of the wind out of the sail. And a guy like Paulo Costa, who does cut quite a bit of weight, he is somebody that if you invest in the body and you start to kind of beat him up a little bit there, I think Sean Strickland can have a lot of success. The only thing that concerns me on the side of Sean Strickland is the lack of output at times. But other than that, I think Sean Strickland could literally walk forward, throw that little front kick and a jab and win this fight. And it's no disrespect towards Paulo Costa. It's just we've seen Sean Strickland in there with an array of different opponents. And since he's been at 185, he is able to go in there against just about everybody and be successful. And I know people want to talk about the power punchers giving Sean Strickland trouble. I really don't think they give him that much trouble, honestly, guys. Like, I know he's a little bit more cautious and he doesn't march forward as much, but he's been able to go 5 rounds with these guys. Like, people point out the Cannonier fight. He went 5 rounds with them. He was never really in that much danger. You know, we saw what happened with him and DDP. That was a great fight. And then we've seen when he was in there, I'm not saying Abus Magomedov's a power puncher, but he was this highly touted prospect that the UFC threw in there. We saw what Sean Strickland was able to do to him. And then we saw him in there against Nasruddin Imavov on short notice, which I believe was at 205. Sean Strickland melted Imavov as that fight progressed. And Imavov is a way better technical striker than Paulo Costa, in my opinion. Like, he is a clean, dangerous striker on the feet as Nasruddin Imavov. So when I look at this fight, I see Sean Strickland marching forward, tearing Paulo Costa apart with that jab, and just being able to defend all of the leg kicks. And I know Paulo Costa does have pretty good hands, but when he's not able to land the way he wants to, he tends to loop shots and get a little bit wild and reckless, where I think Sean Strickland's going to be wise to that. I think he's just going to fight behind the jab, defend the leg kicks, move forward, push the pace, and just kind of put Paulo Costa in the slow cooker, man, and turn the volume on, turn the heat up on medium and just let it slowly start to cook. And as the fight plays out into the later rounds, I'm not saying Sean Strickland can finish Costa, because that's a tough thing to do, because Paulo Costa is incredibly durable. But outside of some sort of head kick that Paulo Costa lands, I think this is Sean Strickland's fight to lose. Like I said, no disrespect to Paulo Costa. I really like him. I think he's entertaining. I think he's fun. I like the whole secret juice thing. Both of these guys are characters, man, and that's what I love about this fight. Stylistically, definitely a good fight. Entertainment-wise, definitely a good fight. But in terms of when we get down to the nitty-gritty, I think Sean Strickland should be the favorite coming into this matchup. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video. Comment your early prediction below. Who do you think wins, Strickland or Costa? Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next time.